There are women who carry something that cannot be explained by appearance, money, or ordinary charisma. It's a silent, almost invisible force, but one that changes the entire atmosphere the moment she arrives. You don't see it with your eyes, but you feel it on your skin, as if your own soul recognizes a rare presence there. Carl Jung said that certain types of inner energy leave marks that the ordinary world simply cannot understand. And these marks don't appear on the physical body. They appear in the aura, in the gaze, and in the way life reacts to you. Some people approach you as if drawn by a powerful magnet, seeking a light they can't even explain. Others abruptly distance themselves, feeling an inexplicable discomfort in the face of your truth, without knowing exactly why they reacted that way. Today, I will reveal the 5 invisible signs of women with high spiritual power, all guided by the occult psychology of Carl Jung. Pay close attention until the end of this video, because the last mark I will reveal here is, without a doubt, the most difficult to bear. It explains why profound women are almost always misunderstood, and why this, in fact, is the greatest proof of their power. To delve into this ocean of self-knowledge, we need to understand that Jungian psychology deals not only with the mind, but with the human spirit. He believed that the individuation process was the most sacred journey a woman could undertake in her earthly existence. When a woman connects with her deepest essence, she ceases to be merely an individual and becomes a living channel. This channel transmits wisdom that transcends generations and touches the collective unconscious of all those who cross her path. If you feel that your life has a greater purpose, this roadmap was written especially for your soul today. The question I want to ask you now, to begin our journey, is very simple, but it demands profound honesty. Have you ever felt that your mere presence affects the people around you, even when you're saying absolutely nothing? Have you noticed that the silence around you seems denser and more meaningful than the noise of other people? If the answer is yes, you probably carry one of those invisible signals that most people completely ignore. Comment below, I feel if you have experienced this, because I want to know how many of you are awake. Before we move on to the first sign, take this moment to subscribe to the channel and activate all notifications now. Here, we explore the mysteries of the mind and spirituality with a depth you won't find anywhere else. By subscribing, you enter an egregore of women seeking the truth behind the social masks of everyday life. Don't miss the chance to be part of this community that values occult psychology and the awakening of the sacred feminine. Let's now unveil the first mystery of your inner strength and how Jung would explain this phenomenon. The first sign of a woman with high spiritual power is what Jung would call a densely integrated and present aura. It's that silent presence that commands the attention of an entire room without you needing to raise your voice even once. It's not about aesthetic beauty, but about a spiritual gravity that pulls others toward the center of their own inner truth. When you enter a place, the energy field shifts because your psyche is anchored to something much greater than the ego. This anchoring creates a sense of natural authority that people instinctively feel and respect without knowing why. Jung explained that when a person integrates their opposites, they emit a frequency of wholeness that is extremely rare in the modern world. Most people live fragmented lives, trying to please others or hide parts of themselves that they consider ugly or wrong. A woman of high spiritual power no longer plays this game of masks. She simply occupies her space with wholeness. This wholeness is perceived by the unconscious of others as an almost magnetic force of nature, provoking fascination or a strange fear. It is as if her soul were projecting a beacon that illuminates the shadows of those around her at that moment. This spiritual gravity makes you the person everyone looks to for answers or guidance. Even if you are introverted, people sense an ocean of depth beneath the surface of your apparent calm. It's the archetype of the wise old woman, or the queen, manifesting through your posture, your walk, and your measured speech. You are in no hurry to be understood, because you know that truth doesn't need to rush to manifest itself in its own time. The world rushes by, but you remain centered, observing the chaos without being swept away by external waves. Often, This presence creates a mirror effect on people, where they see in you what they most admire or hate in themselves. If someone fears their own shadow, your light will be unbearable for that person, generating sudden and inexplicable estrangements. On the other hand, those who seek evolution will see in you a safe haven, a reference that it is possible to be authentic. This duality of reactions is the price paid for carrying an energy that does not accept lies or banal superficialities. You become a catalyst for others' transformations simply by existing and maintaining your high and constant vibrational frequency. Have you ever noticed how people change their behavior or the subject when you join a casual conversation? Have you noticed that strangers often tell you deep secrets or ask for advice without even knowing your full name? This happens because your energy transmits security and a perception that you are capable of upholding the other person's truth. If you identify with this silent magnetism, know that this is the first milestone in your spiritual and psychological In the next chapter, we will understand how the pain you experience transformed into your greatest and most powerful tool. The second sign is the ability to transform deep wounds into wisdom that heals not only yourself, but others. Jung called this the archetype of the wounded healer, someone who knows the path to healing because they have already walked through the valley of shadows. A woman of high spiritual power is not one who has never suffered, but one who has integrated her suffering into her strength. Each scar on her soul has become a portal of perception, allowing her to see the pain of others with genuine compassion. She doesn't run from difficult memories. She uses them as fuel for her constant evolution and resilience. Unlike most, you don't feel like a victim of circumstances. Even though you've gone through extremely challenging situations in your past, you understand that each trauma was a necessary step to break through the shell of your ego and allow your spirit to shine. For Jung, neurosis or psychological suffering was often a sign of a soul trying to find its place. By embracing this pain, instead of repressing it with medication or distractions, you have accomplished a true work of inner spiritual alchemy. The lead of your despair has been transformed into the gold of your consciousness, and this brilliance is visible to sensitive souls. This wisdom born from pain gives you an emotional authority that no one can simulate or buy with cheap self-help courses. When you speak about overcoming adversity, your words carry weight because they are born from an experience lived in the depths of your own being. People feel they can trust your resilience because you exude the strength of someone who has already survived their own personal hell. This invisible mark manifests in the peace you transmit, even in the face of external crises that would drive any other ordinary person to despair. You have become your own refuge, and, by extension, a refuge for those who are still lost in the storm. Occult psychology teaches us that what is not transformed into wisdom ends up being repeated as a cruel and cyclical destiny. Because you broke these cycles, you now hold the key to liberation for your family lineage and your social circles. Your presence is therapeutic in nature, as you do not judge the shadows of others, since you know your own very well. This lack of judgment attracts weary souls who seek only a little truth and acceptance in such a superficial world. You are living proof that pain, when properly processed, is the raw material for building an unbreakable spirit. Have you ever stopped to think that the most difficult situations in your life were the ones that gave you the most intuition and strength? Can you look at your past and be grateful for the battles, understanding that they sculpted the powerful woman you are today? If so, you are experiencing the second sign of a soul that has reached a very high level of spiritual maturity. Leave a yes in the comments if you feel that your pain has transformed into a power that now helps other people. And don't forget to check if you're still subscribed, because the next sign about intuition will surprise you. The third sign is possessing such sharp intuition that it acts like an X-ray for people's intentions and energies. Jung spoke of intuition as the ability to perceive hidden possibilities and truths that are not on the physical surface. A spiritually powerful woman doesn't need logical proof to know when someone is lying or acting out of ulterior motives. She feels an internal click of vibrational dissonance that immediately alerts her that something in that situation or person is not right. This perception is almost instinctive, stemming from a deep connection with the collective unconscious and with her own bodily wisdom. You often know what's going to happen before the event unfolds, or you feel the energy of a place as soon as you step into it. This sensitivity isn't a curse, although it sometimes seems tiring, but rather a tool for constant divine protection and guidance. You see, beyond social masks, pretty words, and the flawless appearances that people try to project to the outside world, for you, the energy a person emanates speaks much louder than any articulate speech or resume of achievements. It's impossible to deceive you for long, because your soul detects a lack of integrity, like a silent alarm in your chest. Many times you've felt crazy or paranoid for noticing things that no one else around you seemed to notice or care about. However, time almost always proves that your first impression was absolutely right and that your intuition never failed you. Jung said that intuition is the language of the soul, and you've learned to speak this language fluently over the years. This invisible trait makes you very selective about who you allow into your inner circle of friendship and trust. You prefer solitude to being surrounded by people whose energies drain your vitality or disrupt your hard-won inner peace. This intuition also allows you to see the hidden potential in people, seeing in them what they themselves cannot yet see. You become that friend who gives the right advice at the exact moment, anticipating the consequences of paths that seem seductive. However, this same clarity can bother those who prefer to live in illusion and denial of their own shadows and flaws. Intuitive women are often labeled as difficult or too intense, precisely because they don't accept the game of social appearances. Their vision cuts through the ego of others, and not everyone is ready to be seen in such a naked and raw way. Have you ever had that feeling of knowing without knowing how you know, and then seeing everything come true exactly as you predicted? Have you ever felt uncomfortable around someone everyone praises, only to later discover that person wasn't trustworthy? That's your intuitive power, acting as a spiritual compass in a world full of distractions and false promises of happiness. Value that inner voice, for it is your most faithful guide on the journey towards your wholeness and your purpose. In the next chapter, we will discuss how your relationship with silence defines the extent of your spiritual strength. The fourth sign of a woman with high spiritual power is her deep and nurturing relationship with solitude and silence. For Jung, productive isolation was essential for the dialogue between the ego and the self to occur without external interference. You are not afraid of being alone. In fact, you need these moments to recharge, organize yourself, and listen to your own voice. While most people flee from solitude with noise, social media, and empty parties, you find your temple in it. It is in silence that you process your emotions, integrate your experiences, and receive the necessary guidance for your next steps. Your solitude is not a sign of depression or a lack of friends, but rather a spiritual selectivity that values quality. You understand that your energy is precious and should not be wasted on interactions that add nothing to your being. Being alone is, for you, a form of self-care and respect for the journey you have chosen to take in this earthly life. Often, you prefer a quiet night with a book, or your thoughts to a noisy and meaningless social celebration. This emotional independence is one of the clearest signs that you have reached a level of mastery over your own psyche. Jung believed that those who look outside dream, but those who look inside awaken, and you have chosen the path of constant awakening. In this state of solitude, you can observe your own thoughts without identifying with them, acting as a conscious observer of life. This healthy detachment gives you a perspective that people immersed in the social mass simply cannot have or understand. You return from your moments of personal retreat with a brighter aura, clearer thoughts, and a renewed and strong determination. The world doesn't consume you because you know exactly where to find your source of inner and spiritual renewal. This need for space can be misunderstood by partners, family, or friends who depend on constant validation from others to exist. They may see your desire to be alone as a sign of rejection, when in reality it is simply your search for integrity. A woman who is self-sufficient in silence is dangerous to the system as she cannot be easily manipulated by social fears. You don't need the approval of others to feel complete, because your connection to the sacred happens in the core of your soul. This autonomy is what allows you to make courageous decisions that others would never dare to even consider or attempt. Do you feel you need doses of silence to maintain your mental health and your connection with what you believe to be divine? Have you noticed that your best ideas and insights arise precisely when you are in total solitude, without interruptions? If your answer is yes, know that you are cultivating the most stable sign of a strong and resilient psychological structure. This is the foundation that allows you to face the fifth and most challenging sign, which we will see shortly. Stay with me here, because the last sign is what truly separates seekers from true masters of the soul. The fifth and final sign, the most difficult of all, is the unwavering courage to face, accept, and integrate one's own shadow. Jung defined the shadow as everything we don't want to be, but which inevitably resides in the depths of our personal unconscious. A woman of high spiritual power knows that she is not made only of light, but that she carries within her desires, anger, and fears. Instead of projecting these imperfections onto others, you take responsibility for every facet of your complex human and divine personality. You don't run from your darkness. You descend into it with a lantern to understand what these monsters have to teach. This integration of the shadow gives you absolute authenticity, because you don't need to waste energy pretending to be a saint or a perfect person. You accept your humanity with all its contradictions, which ironically makes you much more spiritual than those who live in denial. People feel that you are real, and this reality is extremely attractive and, at the same time, confronting for those who live on appearances. By embracing your shadow, you recover the energy that was trapped in repression and transform it into creativity and personal power. You become a whole woman, and a whole woman is a force of nature that no one can truly stop. Facing the shadow means admitting your own mistakes, envy, and weaknesses without letting them destroy you or causing you guilt. You understand that darkness is the fertile ground where light can truly grow and manifest with strength and clarity. Jung said that enlightenment is not achieved by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious to one's own ego. This process is painful and demands a brutal honesty that very few people in the world are willing to have with themselves today. That is why this sign is what makes you such a rare presence, and often so misunderstood by the superficial majority. This invisible mark explains why you are not shaken by criticism from others, because you already know the worst and the best of yourself. When someone tries to attack you by pointing out a flaw, you usually already know it and have integrated it into your healing process. This gives you a psychic invulnerability that is mistaken for coldness, but which is actually just wisdom and profound self. You don't seek to be nice to please, but rather to be conscious in order to evolve and honor the truth of your soul. The integration of the shadow is the final step in the individuation process that Jung so strongly defended as the human pinnacle. Now, stop and think. Can you look at your flaws and your history without punishing yourself, but rather seeking to learn from each mistake? Have you stopped blaming the world for your problems and started looking inward for the hidden roots of everything? If you do this constant inner work, you possess the highest sign of spiritual power a human being can have. This is the complete package we mentioned at the beginning. Presence, wisdom, intuition, solitude, and shadow integrated into one woman. Comment, I am whole. If you accept the challenge of continuing to integrate your shadow every day of your life, carrying these 5 invisible signs comes at a cost, which is often the feeling of being a stranger in your own land. Jung explained that the individuation process inevitably distances us from the herd mentality that dominates most of modern society. Because you are a profound woman, you will often be misunderstood by those who prefer to live on the shallow surface of social interactions and egoic desires. People may call you mystical, strange, or even arrogant, simply because they cannot reach your vibrational frequency. This distance is not a flaw of yours, but a natural consequence of your expansion of consciousness and your spiritual growth. Many times you will feel alone, even in the midst of a crowd, because you perceive layers of reality that others completely ignore. It's as if you were speaking a language that few people around you can translate or understand with their hearts. This lack of understanding from others can generate moments of profound melancholy. But it's important to remember that this is the price of your inner freedom. You were not made to fit into small molds, but to expand the boundaries of what it means to be a conscious woman. Accepting that you will not be understood by everyone is the first step to stop trying to explain yourself to those who don't want to listen. Occult psychology shows us that great souls have always walked solitary paths before being recognized as guides or beacons of strength. The incomprehension of others is, in fact, a sign that you are forging an authentic path and not just following scripts. If everyone understood you perfectly, you would probably only be repeating what common sense dictates to all other ordinary women. Your mystery is your protection against external influences that could divert you from your highest purpose and your truth. Honor your strangeness, for within it lies the seed of your greatest contribution to the world and to humanity. This journey inward requires you to let go of the childish desire to be loved and validated by everyone all the time. A woman of high spiritual power seeks validation from her own self, from her connection with the divine, and not from the ego of others. When you finally accept that misunderstanding is part of the package, a deep peace settles in your heart and mind. You stop fighting to be seen and begin to shine only for those who have eyes trained to see the true light. Depth attracts depth, and in due time, the right souls will appear to walk beside you with the same intensity. Have you ever felt like you were born in the wrong time or place, as if no one spoke your language? Have you ever felt that your deepest conversations are considered too heavy or complicated for the ordinary people around you? Know that this is a classic sign that you are operating at a level of consciousness far above the current average. Don't dim your light to fit into anyone's limited vision, however much it hurts in moments of solitude. In the next chapter, we will understand how this depth affects your relationships and what Jung thought about soul connections. In Jungian psychology, relationships are the battlefield where our shadows and lights meet through the phenomenon of projection. For a woman of high spiritual power, romantic relationships and friendships are seen as sacred mirrors for continuous personal growth. You are not looking for someone to complete you, as you are already working on your own wholeness. But you are looking for someone who can support your intensity. Many people approach you, projecting onto themselves the image of the ideal woman or the savior mother, which generates conflict. It is necessary to have discernment so as not to carry the weight of the expectations that others try to place on your shoulders. You attract partners who often need healing, but your role is not to be anyone's therapist, but rather their inspiration. A spiritually powerful woman needs a partner who is also willing to face their own shadow and grow alongside her. Superficial connections no longer sustain you, and you prefer chastity or solitude to a relationship that drains your vital energy. For you, intimacy is not just physical, but a dance between two souls that recognize each other on very deep and ancestral levels. You seek the mysterium coniunctionis, the alchemical union that Jung described as the ultimate integration of opposites in a conscious relationship. Often, men or women with fragile egos will feel intimidated by your strength and try to diminish you to feel bigger. It is at this moment that your spiritual power manifests itself in the form of clear boundaries and a no that accepts no negotiations. You have learned that loving another cannot mean hating yourself or sacrificing your peace for the sake of companionship. If a relationship does not serve the expansion of your consciousness, you have the necessary courage to let it go with gratitude. Your presence demands that the other person also level up, and not everyone is ready or willing to make that effort. The 5 signs we discussed directly reflect how you choose who deserves to be at your feast of life and energy. Your intuition warns you about emotional predators, and your wisdom protects you from repeating familiar patterns of dependency or emotional abuse. You become a magnet for awakened souls, creating a circle of influence based on truth, not convenience. For you, love is a path to liberation, not a gilded cage of material security or social status. You live the freedom to be who you are, And that's what makes you truly irresistible to the awakened. Have you noticed that your relationships have changed drastically as you've begun to know yourself better and accept your strength? Have you ever had to distance yourself from people you loved because you realized they were hindering your spiritual and personal growth? This is the necessary pain of pruning, so that the tree of your life can bear even sweeter and healthier fruit. Comment here, I choose my peace, if you have already had the courage to end cycles that no longer served your soul. Now let's move on to the penultimate chapter, where we will talk about the mission of the awakened woman in today's world. We have reached a crucial point where we understand that this spiritual power is not just for your own benefit, but for a greater mission. Jung believed that each individual who becomes conscious helps to raise the level of consciousness of all humanity through the morphogenetic field. A woman who integrates the 5 invisible signs becomes a pillar of light in a society that often seems lost in darkness. Her mission is not necessarily to preach or teach on stages, but to live her truth so fully that others feel empowered to do the same. You are an activist of consciousness, influencing the world through your vibrational frequency and your aligned daily actions. Occult psychology reveals that the wounded feminine is being healed through women like you who have decided to stop running from themselves. By healing your relationship with your own inner feminine and masculine, you healed the lineages of women who came before you. You carry the torch of wisdom that has been extinguished by centuries of oppression and cultural superficiality, bringing back the value of intuition. Your mission is to be the bridge between the invisible world of archetypes and the visible world of practical achievements and human relationships. Every time you choose awareness, instead of fear, the whole world becomes a little brighter and more hopeful. This mission demands discipline, as the world will try to pull you back into unconsciousness and the consumption of useless and empty distractions. Maintaining a high level of spiritual power requires daily practices of connection, whether through meditation, writing, art, or contact with nature. You are the guardian of the inner fire, and your responsibility is to not let that fire be extinguished by the winds of public opinion. Whether in your career, your family, or your community, you act as a leaven that makes the dough of consciousness rise. Your life is your greatest teaching, and your integrity is your most powerful and transformative tool today. Do not underestimate the impact a single conscious woman can have on the entire system around her, provoking profound and lasting change. When you heal yourself, you stop projecting your shadows onto others, and this breaks cycles of conflict that could last for generations. You become an example of emotional sovereignty, showing that it is possible to be sensitive and strong at the same time without losing sweetness. The mission of the awakened woman is, ultimately, to bring more love and awareness to a planet that cries out for balance and healing. You are part of this living response, an essential piece in the puzzle of spiritual evolution that we are collectively experiencing now. Do you feel that in a calling that your life should serve a greater purpose than just working, paying bills, and surviving? Can you see that your experiences, however difficult they may have been, have prepared you to help heal this world in transition? If you feel this fire in your chest, you are one of the women Jung would describe as pioneers of a new era of consciousness. Get ready, because in the next chapter, we will tie all these concepts together and give you the final direction for your journey. Stay focused, because the conclusion of this roadmap is what will seal your commitment to your own light. In this final chapter, we recap the journey of the woman who embodies the complete package of high spiritual power according to Jungian psychology. You now understand that your quiet presence is the result of a spiritual gravity gained through self-knowledge and presence. You understand that your wisdom was born from transformed pain, that your intuition is your compass, and that your solitude is your sacred sanctuary. By integrating your shadow, you have ceased to be a fragmented woman and have become a force of nature, whole, real, and extremely powerful. Being misunderstood is no longer a burden, but proof that you are living beyond the banal illusions of the ego. This final awakening is not a destination you reach and stop growing, but a state of being that you cultivate at every moment. Carl Jung's occult psychology invites us to continue exploring the depths of our being. As long as we are breathing on this physical earth, the journey of individuation is infinite, And each new challenge is an opportunity to apply the 5 signs you discovered here today. You now have the map to avoid getting lost again in the shadows of others or in the expectations of a society that fears female power. Keep your head held high, for you bear the mark of women who changed the course of history simply by being who they are. Always remember that spiritual power without love is merely ego in disguise, but spiritual power with compassion is the greatest force in the universe. Use your intuition to serve, your wisdom to heal, and your presence to calm the storms around you. Wherever you go, do not be afraid of your depths, for it is there that the treasures reside that the world so desperately needs to find its way back. You're a seed of light that blossomed in the asphalt of modernity, proving that the human soul is resilient and eternal by nature. Follow your path with the confidence of one who knows their own essence and needs to prove nothing to anyone. Now, I want to extend a final invitation to you. Don't just keep this knowledge in your mind, but take it to your heart and into your practical life. Review this video whenever you feel lost or pressured to return to the mediocrity of common, purposeless behavior. Share this script with that special woman you know also carries these signs and needs an awakening or validation. Awakening is collective, and each enlightened soul helps illuminate the path of thousands of others who are still You are part of this invisible network of light and wisdom that is being silently woven around the globe. Finally, I want to thank you for staying with me until the end of this profound and transformative journey through Jungian psychology. If you haven't already subscribed, this is your last chance to join our community and continue receiving this exclusive content. Leave a like if this video touched your soul and brought you some necessary clarity for your current life situation. Comment, "I awaken to seal this commitment to your spiritual evolution and your deepest truth today." See you in the next video, where we will continue exploring the mysteries of the human mind and spirit in depth.